Because I own a Kalamazoo guitar. I paid $35 for my Kalamazoo. And I decided I needed a guitar for myself that I wouldn't worry about. And the Waterloo that I have is a 1938, and I mean the Kalamazoo, not the Waterloo. Excuse me. It had a originally ladder braced, but the top was pulled up so badly that I didn't think I could fix it by fixing the ladders. I really needed to take the ladders out and flatten the top and put an X-brace in there. And I did, and I thought that I could keep some of the original hump that was in there from the ladders, which I did. And guitar, and I love the simplicity and rawness of the guitar. The guitar is made on a different style than we do today. The early Gibsons, any 30s style Gibson, was built on a flat set of sides. In other words, when that arched top, slightly arched top, was put on that flat sides, it was really what's called a flat top. Today we arch the sides a little bit and it holds the top up a little differently. That's a different sound. It's a more controlled and even sound today. But the rawness that flatness and the flatness of the back gave, I really enjoyed. And everybody that played that guitar liked it too. So I decided to make something that had the characteristics of that 30 style Gibson type building that those guitars were known for in the 30s. So that's really what started it for me. What I wanted was the rawness in the soul of that guitar, of the utilitarian of that Kalamazoo. That was pretty much through the 30s. Those guitars, the other Gibson brands, they would be called, were there to make a little extra money. They were sold in catalogs. They were sold at Montgomery Ward's, see all these different places, and not necessarily under the Gibson brand, but they're under a cheaper brand. And it was really, I don't know what it would be like in those days, but you could pick that guitar up real reasonable. It was a very bottom of the line, reasonably priced guitar. I think it was $35 back in the day, or $17 or something. So I wanted to capture some of that. So the style of building it and the type of wood, which was much cheaper than the Collings wood, it's not visually as perfect, but it is really what it was back then. It would have been crooked grain, a little wider grain, whatever it may be, but it's still good sounding wood that we choose. So it allowed us to free it up and make that guitar and just make it a real enjoyable, cheaper guitar. Different than the Collings. Different. Well, our tooling and our way of making guitars is to make guitars perfect. Really nice guitars. Every little detail. So we would have to not sand our braces, and we would have to do the opposite making this guitar. We had to not sand, not clean up the glue, and just work a little, well, if we could, quicker to try to just capture what these guitars were made like back in the 30s. They just plastered a brace on there, plastered them together. That's not the way we work. So it was really kind of hard to say, oh good, there's some glue, or, a scratch, yay, good. So that was kind of fun. So, but it is a little hard to put, we're not putting a finish on, a polished finish. We're putting a protective coating of lacquer, very thin coating. We're not sanding it after every coat. So that's very hard for us mentally. The large neck that we make, I wanted to make it simple, and I put a T-bar in it. Originally they had no bar whatsoever, but those necks, you know, they all moved, so we couldn't have that. We had to have it stay stable. So I tried some with a T-bar, and I tried some with an adjustable rod. Both are great. I probably prefer the T-bar, but a lot of people want the adjustability, so we gave them the adjustability. So that's why there's two different options there. You know, they're both good. You know, it's just like, to be more like the period, it would have been the T-bar. To be more flexible, it'd be an adjustable bar. Okay, and then as far as ladder brace versus X brace, those are two totally different guitars. They're both raw, they're both beautiful. The X brace is a smoother, maybe more cowboy type sound, where the ladder is a more blues finger picking style guitar. Totally different guitar, not the same guitar. So it just opens up a little life to both models, or all models. Just opens it up so it's a little easier to get in one. Everybody needs a Waterloo. One day I like the ladder, the next day I like the X. I prefer the bigger neck, but either guitar, you just can't compare them. They're two different guitars. I love the back and sides are the same on all. The top is the only thing different. And the top, being X brace versus ladder, it tells you those are two totally different sounds. The X brace a little smoother, and the ladder a little poppier and a little more uncontrolled. Very nice for fingerstyle. It's hard to say, because a lot of the people do other jobs. They work with the ukuleles, and then the Finnish guy used to finish ukuleles, so he's doing ukuleles and Waterloos. And then the setup people all work on the Waterloos. So there's not a specific number that work. It's like a little here, a little there. It's, you know, it's not totally out of the calling shop right now. It's in the calling shop, which actually makes it kind of hard. So the neck people make the necks, the same ones. So it's the same people work at Collings, work on those guitars. Well, we don't do a few things that would have been done, which would be dovetail. Originally the dovetail was under the top, so you couldn't get that neck off if you wanted to. You'd have to take the finger port off and do a lot of extra work. So we didn't do that, okay? And we did our normal bolt-on, so if there's ever an issue with neck reset, that's easy. And really that's about it. Just design the guitar around the old guitar, the way it was made. Very simple, and just make the guitar. It's just about making a guitar very clean and good wood, and not overdoing it like we do Collings. We overdo Collings guitars. Okay, we try to underdo Waterloo. Okay, two different things. Make sense? Yeah. It's thin, yes. There's two coats on the back and sides, and because there's a sunburst, there's probably 4 or 5 coats on the top. But it's very thin. It's like 3 mils on the top, maybe 1 or 2 on the back and sides. Very thin. which will wear, and it won't be perfect. It'll wear like furniture and develop a fine patina, little dents and little things, and that's what you want in that guitar. That's not a guitar to keep looking really perfect. Enjoy that guitar. Yeah. But it's not a polyester finish, real thick. It's very thin, just like they were in the old days, okay, in the 30s. No, we don't pour it all on there, but if we have glue along the brace or the lining in there, that's part of that character of that period. And rather than take it away, we're going to leave it there. It's part of what we're trying to do that guitar in the style that they were made. It's hard for us, but we're trying. Yeah. No. No. All those other things are over making guitars. Really working too hard. No. That little bit of glue? No. Very little bit. No. Because the braces are shiny, it doesn't make much difference, you know. It's just, again, that's more of a visual. If all the wood's there and it's a little bit rough, you know, braces were never really sanded very much. Collings started really sanding braces. Most guitars never. They would just rough them out with a saw, get them in there, and very quickly sand and put them down. So for us, we're just trying to use the table saw to make that brace and leave table saw marks on it. Just like it would have been done in the Depression era. They would not have sanded it. You couldn't afford to. So we're trying to separate that guitar by, here, the tool is the table saw, and ours is the table saw and sand. So every brace on our Collings might have 10 more minutes of sanding. Well, we just don't do it on the Waterloo. No, it won't hurt the guitar. But we wouldn't build a Collings that way. That's why there's two names, Waterloo and Collings. The wood we use for the Waterloo is not because it's bad sounding wood, but it would be visually not usable for a Collings. In other words, if I had some pretty wild grain in the top or some, you know, color or something, one of my Collings customers might not like that. So we always visually make sure it's visually perfect and sounds perfect. Okay. The Waterloo, we're loosening the reins on that, and we can go ahead and we can use wood that is visually not so good, okay, but it sounds good, okay. So that allows us to buy it cheaper. We have to buy the wood cheaper, and that's half the fun, is using one that's a little ugly this way or ugly that way or whatever. But you probably won't even notice the difference in it. But to us, we couldn't use it on the other line, okay. That's really the only difference. And there might be a flaw in the neck wood too, maybe a little knot or something, okay? And to me, that's part of the charm of that period. In that period, my personal guitar, the Waterloo, was made from 4 pieces of top. The outside 2 had knots in them, and they were filled with plaster of Paris. It was like, what? So when I took that back off, I went, wow. They didn't even use good wood on the edge. They used bad wood on the edge. So it was kind of neat. So, just making a guitar. Nothing fancy. I'm very happy that we sell guitars in Japan and that you enjoy them. And I hope that you enjoy the Waterloo guitars as much as we are here in the States. We're most of us, everybody in the shop's buying a Waterloo too. So yeah, it becomes a guitar that we can afford, and we can actually afford to take and not worry about somewhere. So that's the fun part about Waterloo. It's easy. You don't have to worry as much as a high quality Collings guitar. It's a high quality, low quality guitar. Okay?